All right, we are recording.
Okay, so I guess I should call the meeting to order, and this is the City of San Diego Commission on Police Practices Ad Hoc Operating Procedures Committee of July the 10th, 2024, and President or myself, Doug Case, is chair, committee member Commissioner Dwayne Harvey, and our committee consultant, our chief investigator, Olga Golub. And tonight we're going to go over the final two procedures of our packet of procedures that will need to go to the city council and eventually to a meet and confer. And those two policies are the process for making public records request and the records and retention policy. And the process is going to be that after we get all of the procedures reviewed, Paul is going to take a look at them before we submit them to the city in case he has any questions that may require action on the part of the commission before we submit it to the city. And likewise, the HR negotiating team, which are basically the people on our side during the meet and confer, asked to see them in advance. And they'll let us know if there's any red flags. And it's not quite clear what their process will be. It may just be that they want to look at them so that they're prepared for the issues and they can do some research prior to the meet and confer process. But I got the sense that if there was anything that they thought would be problematic, they may want to flag that to us before we present it. And so the next step will be to get the commission approval next week. And then after Paul has looked them over, to send them to the HR team with a deadline. Maybe we can talk about what that deadline should be. And then Council Member Monty Von Wilpert, who chairs the Public Safety Committee, which is the first place where these will go. They'll actually go to the Public Safety Committee, then they'll refer them on to the full City Council. Has asked to see them prior to us, putting it on their agenda as a courtesy, and so we can, after we give a deadline to the HR negotiating team, then we can send it to Council Member Von Wilpert to maybe give her a week or so to look it over, depending upon what their agenda and scheduling is going to be. I think they meet monthly. I'm pretty sure they just meet monthly. And they just met today, and today is what, the second Wednesday. And so the second Wednesday in September is September the 11th. That may be optimistic to get them before them. Otherwise, it would be on October the 9th.
Sorry, Doug. Sorry to interrupt. I think the original plan was September 18th, not the 11th, but
Okay, then maybe that's when they meet. I just know they had a meeting today, and today is the second Wednesday. So I'll look and see when they're scheduled to meet in September.
Yeah.
But the goal is to get that to the Public Safety Committee at their September meeting, which will be either on the 11th or the 18th. And to and I guess they have to post their agenda like the Friday before, just like we do. So you probably want to get a copy to the Council Member Von Wilpert 10 days prior to that meeting. which then raises the question I just raised hypothetically, and we can now address specifically. Do we want to give a deadline to the city's negotiating team? And what should that deadline be? And so if we approve everything at our meeting next week, which is the 17th, and assuming that any right, and I guess if Paul has any questions or concerns, we may be able to, depending on what they are, we may be able to take care of those at our meeting on August the 7th, but that's going to be the same night as our pretext stops meeting, and we're going to have an abbreviated business meeting. But if it's something minor, we could, add that to that agenda. And then backing up, well, how about giving them 2 weeks to respond? Does that sound reasonable? I mean, there's a lot of material because we have maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is gonna be a few hundred pages.
Right.
How often would they be meeting?
Well, they're not a regular group that meets on a regular basis. They are from various different departments, and they're the people who will be actually negotiating with the POA. And so they have they have like a chief and negotiator, and then they have somebody from the city attorney's office, somebody from HR who handles public safety issues. The city attorney's office person is Joan Dawson. And if anybody's going to raise any red flags or issues, it's going to be Joan, because Joan has a reputation for being a stickler on things and sometimes being difficult with procedures.
If I may suggest, may we first see whether Paul identifies any issues that he thinks are worth revisiting for the commission, how many of these are, to determine when they'll go on the agenda. But I'm assuming it has to be either, August 7th or 21st, but based on the tight agenda on the 7th, I'm not optimistic, frankly, that something would go in there from the committee. That's just me.
Okay, well then why don't we say our timeline is that after we get commission approval and Paul looking it over and final commission approval, if there's anything necessary after Paul reviews it, and so if Paul reviews it and everything was okay to move forward, then we would just move forward. If he wants to take it to the commission, then we hold it to the next commission meeting. But whenever it is finalized from the commission, we would then send it to the HR negotiating team, which includes the city attorney's office, and we will give them 3 weeks to review it. And I don't know if we should ask them for feedback or whether we should just say, per your request, here is an advanced copy of the procedures. Well, I guess we're going to give them a deadline. We have to request something, but we can say that
if they have any comments.
If they have any comments, because it may not be something that they want us to change, but it could be something they may just you know, these are going to be some issues that are going to be sticking points at the POA. And so we can just, I like that, just saying, please submit any comments you may have prior to, then we'll give 3 weeks from the date that we send it to them. We would then forward it to Councilmember Von Wilpert 10 days prior to the Public Service Committee. And so we need to check with them to see whether or not this is something that they can put on their agenda for their September meeting, or whether they want to wait until their October meeting. I don't know what they have on their agenda, you know, and they may prefer some time to look at it as well, because it is a lengthy document, and you know, they may or may not have questions, and so I guess those things are not necessarily within our control, but that'll be our game plan, is that we will try to get commission approval next week. Paul will then review it, and unless Paul wants the commission to take some additional action, we'll forward it on to the HR to give them 3 weeks to comment. If it does take additional committee action, then after that additional action, we'll send it to HR, give them 3 weeks to comment, and then send it to Councilmember Von Wilpert with at least 10 days prior to the Public Service Committee where it's going to be heard. And it could be more than 10 days, depending upon how much, you know, when they schedule that meeting. Okay, so with that as a preface, which one do you want to go first? You want to do the retention one?
Let's do the retention one.
Okay.
So I will share the screen and I will provide some background for you first, if that's okay. Just because this procedure is a little bit different from the other ones that have been drafted. Let me know if you see my screen.
I do.
Yeah, I
Can
see it.
you make it a little bit bigger?
Sure.
Actually, a lot bigger.
Yeah.
You got it. How about now?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So if you had a chance to look at it ahead of time, you could see that it consists of 2 separate documents, or you may have seen a version where an appendix is pasted as a PDF version of the big Excel spreadsheet. But the idea is that every city department has to have their own records retention schedule. It has to follow the city's master records retention schedule. And this is something that staff did. Alina worked closely with the city clerk's office in identifying all the records that the commission and the office of the commission may have during the normal course of business, and identifying categories in the city's master retention schedule where those records would fall. And each category falls under different legal codes that kind of stipulate for how long these records should be kept. So this particular procedure consists of 2 documents, because I've been frank, I had struggled to paste the giant spreadsheet in the Word document. And when it's going to be submitted to the commission, it's going to be in PDF format. So that's going to be easier for me to merge. But because we're reviewing the document in the Word, I left them in 2 separate formats. And frankly, it would have been really hard for you to look if it was just pasted here, the spreadsheet. But the Word document is just kind of a preamble that I drafted. Mostly it's just stipulations from the San Diego Municipal Code and a few administrative regulations that kind of explain this background process that the department must follow. You know, these procedures, copy and paste of the definitions from one of the city's administrative regulation that deals with different records, what a record is, what a non-record is, what's a vital record, what's a record retention schedule, Most of these procedures identify specific rules and roles for specific responsibilities for the executive director, who is of the department, who is mostly the person responsible for the departments following those procedures. So identified some of these roles. There are many more in those procedures, but these are kind of the key ones. Some additional general provisions, and then the spreadsheet. Let me know if you see it.
Yes.
Mhm,
So-
yes.
Okay.
This was something, again, done in collaboration with the city clerk. The city clerk handles the spreadsheet. They identify the record series. These rows are record series. They helped put this together. We worked together on drafting descriptions of different record series. So the years of retention, again, are stipulated by specific codes. That's not something that we can change. But the process is today is for you to review both of these kind of separate documents, which are part of the same procedure. See if you have any flags, but most of it is kind of pretty straightforward, that has to follow city rules, and there is not much we can modify to any of these. But the plan or the process for this is typically the department works on these, and then it is submitted to the city clerk's office and to the city attorney's office for approval. But because there is a commission body, we asked the city clerk to allow the commission to review these to see if there are any issues. And they're fine with this. So and this was also provided to Mr. Bennett for review. So he took a look both at the introduction and the schedule. He identified a few issues, so we modified those already. And after the ad hoc committee's review today, and hopefully it's approved, once it goes through the commission's approval next week, it is going to be submitted to the city clerk's office and the city attorney's office for final approval. So if there are any changes or modifications, we can talk about that, but I would say if there are just changes in the language of the description, we can talk about whether it's worth bringing back to the entire commission or not. So that's the process, and let me know how you want to approach this one, if you already took a look at it, if you had any questions.
I had two questions. One was the list of definitions.
Mhm.
Did all those words appear elsewhere in the document, or the
No, so I originally had just the ones that appear in the document, and Mr. Bennett recommended including all, but I am agreeing with Doug here that I think we can remove some of the ones that won't be appearing in this document.
why did Mr. Bennett think that we should include them all?
We didn't go into detail. He just said not to cherry pick from the document and copy and paste it, which I get, but I also think if they're not applicable to the document, they won't serve any purpose. And we are cherry picking from some of these regulations, right? Because we're not pasting the entire language. Sometimes we're summarizing just the most important points. So I agree with Doug. If the committee wants, I can go through and remove the definitions that won't be in this document.
Okay, no, I think it makes sense to remove them. I've never seen a document, where it gives definitions of terms you don't use in the document.
That makes sense to me.
Now if they're included in the appendix, then I would say yes.
What about you, Commissioner Harvey?
That sounds good. Sounds right.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, and then the second question I had was just a curiosity one. I was trying to figure out what the retention is for the case review reports that we write, and I couldn't figure out which category on the spreadsheet that it would fall into.
So that would fall under category ES 311, internal affairs investigations. So the idea is for case reviews and for commission's investigations to mimic the department's internal investigations schedule. And because case reviews are attached to internal affairs investigations, so that would be 5 years closed plus 5 years and 15 years for sustained. And this is all described here.
Would it be okay to put internal affairs investigations and CPP reviews of those investigations?
So unfortunately, the name of the category as it is here in the
Sure.
record series title cannot be
Yeah.
changed because that's the city's record series, but what we can do is explain further in the category description what other records we think would be falling here.
Okay,
And we did, so the series, so there's like an introduction here about what internal investigations are. We can remove this description actually, because I think that's the city clerk's description. We can just say these series also applies to independent commission investigations as mandated and permitted by the San Diego Municipal Code. And I cited the code instead of stipulating which investigations are mandatory, which ones are discretionary, so all of these, and then it also says also documents generated as part of commission evaluation of internal affairs investigations.
perfect. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that. I guess I wasn't looking at the
And the description.
description. Okay. So thank you for. And then I guess the final one, unless Commissioner Harvey has any, is the notes that you had on the, should we go through the questions or notes that we were still?
Here in the, in
No.
this,
Yeah, in the procedure itself, I think there were some notes that you had not resolved.
no, not in this one. I think they were in the PRA.
Or go up a little bit higher. I thought I just saw one.
That's the one that I just made about removing the.
Okay.
definition.
Okay. Then it looks good to me. Dwayne, do you have any
No, it's fine.
okay, and so making those removing the definitions that are not applicable. I guess that's all, right? Everything else.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I will put this in the PDF format and I will be able to attach the spreadsheet to that, to this introduction, but it will be small. So I wonder if we want to provide an Excel spreadsheet as a separate attachment to commissioners to review also prior to the meeting.
you know, I would if it's because there's no harm in doing it. And it is kind of small because I looked at it. Well, you had a version where you had it there, right? Because I saw it earlier today.
Yeah, it's here.
Anyway, it was pretty small,
Yeah.
and so I just kind of gave up on it. And I went
Yeah.
and looked.
Yeah, this is how it.
Yeah, and so, I went and looked at the spreadsheet when I was trying to find what I was just talking about. Well, and by the way, when I asked that question, you knew the section number on the top of your head. Was that because you've memorized them all?
Because I've been working on that for a while too, together with Alina. So
Okay.
at this point, I think we're experts in the city's retention schedule and record sections.
Okay, and would you be okay with giving the overview to the commission?
Sure.
Like you just get to us? Okay, then I think we're done with that, and we can go on to the PRA.
Okay, let me just finish making this note. Okay. So the last one is the PRA procedure. This one was drafted by Mr. Bennett. And then I asked Alina to take a look at it because she is the person she's the public records request liaison for the department. so that she could add anything from the process wise. And Mr. Bennett, outlined all the kind of legal basis and all the general requirements. And I just went in and added just a few notes for myself, but this is mostly Mr. Bennett's procedure. And I worked whatever Alina's additions were and mine were in consultation with Mr. Bennett. I left them all in edits just so that you could see, how it evolved from Mr. Bennett to today.
So a couple of, I guess, practical questions. So if a person requested a document that was an evaluation of a PD document, and so the we'll say hypothetically that we were able to give them our evaluation form, but I don't think we can, correct?
Evaluation, like what evaluation?
No, I mean like a case review evaluation. That's not available through a PRA, right?
Only thing that's public record.
And this is
So-
public record. Well, that was gonna be my
Mhm.
second question, but if it's say it's not a one that qualifies as a public record. Well, let's go there. Let's assume that it is a public record one. So say it was one that involved a sustained use of force, something like that. If that document already exists on the website, because if it is a mandated disclosure, it'll be on the mandated disclosure website. Do we simply refer the complainant to the website, or do we provide them a copy of the document?
I don't know not 100% sure because I'm not an attorney, but from what's described in this process here, it says one of the options here when the person submits the request is search prior requests on the portal or the documents page for previously published records. So I think because there is this step, my understanding is that the person can be referred to a publicly available record to satisfy the request, but again, not an attorney, we can ask that of Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. That's what happens when an individual requests. If it's available in another format or is it another place wherever to get that, they're just referred to it. I've made requests and that's what's happened to me.
Well, there you go. Mr.
Okay.
Harvey has experience.
Okay, and so let's say that for some reason there was a document that was publicly available, and say that it hypothetically was a case review. Would we only provide them with the documents we generated, or do we provide them with the documents that were sent to us by the PD, or do they have to request that information separately from the PD, or do we refer that part of the request to the PD? Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense, and that's something that Mr. Bennett and I discussed, and I think my understanding that it's going to be really case specific, depending on the records that the commission can and may refer the person to the police department as custodian of their police records, specifically for those documents. But the commission, so that let's say for like arrest reports or any of those evidentiary documents that are provided to the commission, but the commission's report that was generated by an investigator and any other evidence gathered by an investigator, that would be something that would need to be reviewed by an attorney and whoever is processing the PRA request, whether that's releasable and how it can be released. So I think it can be both. It can be referred to the police department. Some of these may be released by the commission, but it will all depend, and it all falls under these different regulations, which an attorney would have to figure out.
Okay, and in our process, do we say anywhere that our legal counsel reviews the request?
I didn't see it referring to the council specifically, but I've seen just Yeah, there you go. It does say that personnel designated to handle CPR requests should consult with the general counsel, legal counsel. Yeah. Let me zoom it in a little bit.
Yeah, but that's specific to personnel records.
No, it's just CPP internal procedures for records under the California Public Records.
Okay. And procedurally, because I've never, oh, maybe that's not completely true, but I haven't made many public records requests. Because the only time I remember ever doing it in the past, they said, okay, we'll give you this information. You don't have to formally request it. And it wasn't, anyway, it wasn't the PD, it was another department. It looks like that there is now a city portal, and they can request it in the portal, and then the documents are put in the portal, and then they are publicly available. So if Dwayne requested the minutes of the CPP Ad Hoc Operating Procedures Committee, and it was provided, and he made it to the portal. And if I wanted that, then they would simply refer me to the section of the portal and say it's already there.
Yes.
And is that the way most records are handled these days?
That's the way I see it as.
And so
as far as the request for the public service request.
Okay. And then who takes care of the redaction?
I think that's something the department does.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Department.
No, go ahead, Commissioner Harvey. You have more experience with this
city
than I do. So.
No. You're right. It's a department.
And like in our department, does Alina do that?
I believe that Alina is the records retention, the CPRO designated personnel for the department, but that can change, but.
Okay. And in terms of the mechanics, if it's a Word document, you simply block it out, right? And can you do, and I assume you can do the same thing with the PDF?
Yeah, I think it's actually even easier in the PDF than in the Word document.
Okay.
Yeah. But all of it, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
No. I just said, I tell you, I've received some where, I mean, just about every word was redacted. I was like, it was a waste of time sending it to me. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember I saw something, I forget who it was, but anyway, it was something from the city attorney's office, and it was like page after page of just everything on the page was blocked out. And then another question, in here, there's reference to PD records, and you had suggested, or you had asked whether we should keep that in, and Dwayne said that we should.
Yeah, I'm scrolling to this section specifically.
Yeah. And what was the rationale for that? I'm not disputing it, I'm just wondering why.
Yeah, he said that just in case there may be an instance, my understanding is that this may not happen often, but in case there's ever an instance that one of these records need to be released under the procedure, this would be the guideline. So just to be on the safe side, that was the rationale.
Okay, but normally if somebody from the community requested some records that included an arrest report, we would submit that request to the PD.
Yeah.
And I think it even said that, right? It says that,
Yeah, that's why I
yeah.
included this one. We worked together in modifying some language, and that's the preface for it.
Okay. And, so Dwayne, do you have any questions? You probably have more experience with this than I do.
Yeah, nah, no questions.
Okay. Then let's go through the notes that we have there and so we can clear them off. And you can make it just a little bit larger because your notes are too tiny to read.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. I feel like the document enlarges, but the notes stay the same
Okay.
size.
I may need to have you read it to me because it's coming really fuzzy on mine.
So these are this is just a copy of what I pasted here. So
Okay.
on the side, it just says, this enumerates different modes of filing the request.
Maybe it'd be easier for you to go through the notes and see if there's anything that you want feedback on.
Oh, sure, sure. So these are just kind of whenever you make an edit, then it's gonna be here on the side. These are just some, stylistical issues. I don't think that they need to be addressed. The rest is just Alina adding some of the processes regarding the portal.
So that just notes all of the changes instead of not
Yeah,
really.
yeah, it just highlights the changes.
Is there a different type of a note for where you have a question, or is it?
I see what you're saying. There was one, that Alina actually asked. There is a procedure here that it says records may also be inspected at the CPP offices as a means of compliance with the request. And Alina asked, if this is accurate because she's never experienced this. And I looked at the CPRA, and according to CPRA, that's applicable and appropriate. So.
Okay. And it could be that we haven't really had our office that available to the public pass. Also, I remember, here's I can scroll up. There was something where it was, scroll up further. It'll pop out to me when I see it. It wasn't under internal procedures. Well, the part of the procedure was like instructions to the public.
Okay, yeah, I remember it.
And you changed it to the requester instead of you. And
There's this one. It was about anonymous requests.
That wasn't there.
This is where I changed to your request.
Could you do a find and type in requested?
Requester?
No, requested.
Requested.
Because I think that there was it's not that one.
Oh, this
there
one.
it is. Yeah,
the City of San Diego records.
Yeah, it says the requested. It should say the requester.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And the last section, I think, deals, it's not necessarily about the PRA, but about, that's what's actually mentioned in the ordinance about outreach and communications, and it kind of just restates what the ordinance mandates about keeping the public informed on the website.
And I'm wondering whether or not, what is the title of the procedures at public records request?
Yes, so we may need to change it actually.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, because I saw that and I recognize that from the ordinance, and so maybe we can have something that's
and records release? Or
well, the title of the last one is Public outreach and communications. How about public records and communications?
Sure.
Yeah,
I will
'cause-
align it, so.
yeah, because when I saw that, I said, well, that doesn't really, that's not really a public records request, but then I recognized that it's something that was mentioned in the ordinance and figured that was why it was there.
Yeah,
And then
that was
going,
my question initially, and then I spoke to Mr. Bennett and he explained why it's in there.
okay, and uh, and then the section where it has internal procedures for my my initial question was whether that should be an operating procedure or like part of our
Manual?
manual. But I don't really have a strong feeling one way or another.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't, yeah, I'm not, Mr. Bennett put it in there. I kind of didn't really question it, so it's your call.
Let's leave it in then.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see either way. And this may be a silly question, but it is the first time that we use CPP in this document. Is it spelled out? Because I don't think in our other documents we.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually go and clean this up, format it and all that. And wherever it says CPP, I'll change it to the commission because that's what we've been doing with
Okay.
other procedures.
Yeah, perfect. That's what I would have preferred. But if not, I was going to suggest that we spell out what CPP means the first time it's used, but I prefer being consistent.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, but yeah, I do that every time with every procedure, so I'll remember to do it.
Okay, and the same thing with the coloring and so forth.
Yeah, it's just gonna look like a normal Word document like we've been doing.
Okay.
Anything else for this one?
I can't think of anything.
Commissioner Harvey?
No, good.
Well, I actually remembered I had one more thing about the records retention, but let me know if you're all good with this one first.
I'm good. You want to go back to the other one?
Yeah, to the commission. Okay, so I had one comment about the process. So as part of this procedure, according to the city, or as part of the executive director's responsibilities is to go through this schedule and identify whether a record is vital or not. And a vital record is defined as something vital to the department's operation. So this is something that Paul would need to do. Just in terms of logistics, are you okay with him? It is his responsibility, regardless, but are you okay with him just going through this? If he has the time before it goes to the commission, if not, before it goes to the city clerk, and just making sure he selects yes or no. But this is something that he needs to do.
I'm fine with him doing that. Is vital records one of the things that's defined?
Yeah, it is defined in that procedure.
Okay.
And I already spoke with him about it, so he knows. I just, with all the other things coming at him, I didn't want to ask him to do it today, but hopefully he'll be able to do it by the end of this week.
Okay.
All right, well, that was my last thing on those procedures.
Okay, well, that is our agenda.
Well, I had one more thing for you as a committee, I guess. I'm curious, what are the next plans for the committee? Because all the procedures are reviewed. Do you have plans to still keep it in place in case any of the things get back to the
Well,
commission or?
Well, actually, that's interesting because so actually we had that discussion today after our meeting. Um, Either Paul or Gloria asked that very question, and because we do have operating procedures that are internal operating procedures, and I think when we established the committee, we had not necessarily made that distinction. And so that's one question, is whether or not this committee is going to work on internal ones as opposed to the ones that need to go through a meeting and confer. And then secondly, whether we're going to keep the committee in place in case there are questions that come back from the city attorney's office, or in case that there are issues that are arised in the meeting and confer and they, want us to make a change and so forth. And so I think our sense was that we would keep the committee in place until the procedures are finally adopted by the city council. But we may not necessarily meet unless there is a need to meet. And then the question came up of what about the internal procedures? And one of the procedures that it was mentioned in what is mentioned in the ordinance. Well, there are several that are on our spreadsheet that are not. We decided don't need to go through city council. And one of them is there's a provision in the ordinance that says that the commission can make nominations for commissioners, but they have to have a operating procedure that spells out that process. And since that's an internal thing, we decided that doesn't require
This one?
yes. Well, and Gloria was asking, what do you want to work on next? And I said, that's something I'm interested in working on. And then the question arose, should these other procedures be done by this committee or by the Rules Standing Committee? And I think it makes more sense for these to be done by our Rules Standing Committee, which we have not established yet. Gloria is hesitant about establishing standing committees because they require in-person meetings and Brown Act notification and so forth. But I pointed out that we used the CRB had standing committees, and the CPP did too. We had a policy committee that was a standing committee. And of course, the CPP was during the COVID restrictions, and so we can meet online, didn't have the requirements for meeting in person that we do now. But I think that it's fine for the committee to meet down at the CPP offices. That's part of the reason why we got the office there. We have lots of places to meet. And the public could come. In the past, we didn't get a lot of public attendance at those meetings. We did occasionally, because they were noticed. Anyway, that's a long answer. So the answer to your question is that we're gonna stay active as a committee until the procedures are finally approved, in case something gets referred back to us to look at. And whether or not this committee will work on developing the other procedures that don't require city council approval depends upon what the cabinet's decision is on establishing standing committees. If we establish standing committees, it would make sense for the rules committee to handle those types of procedures. If they decide to continue with ad hoc committees, then, I guess this committee could continue to work on that. And so stay tuned.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. I was more curious about this committee, so I understand there is an entire conversation about standing committees, but I know it's tangential to this, so.
And okay, anything else? Well, it is only 6:53 and we have never adjourned early, but I will entertain a motion, Dwayne, to adjourn.
Yep, I'll motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, and then I think we're the only voting members, and so unless there's an objection, what is in your background?
To me?
Yeah.
I'm going
Oh.
to stop the meeting because you adjourned it, but then you can continue.
Okay, yeah,
I'm just stopping the recording.
I'm just in my backyard, that's all.
Okay,